What is happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of One Big Fire, and we've got a massive fire coming in the house today. I am super excited for today's conversation. Very dear friend and the one and only Mr. Blake Sloan in the house with us. What
What's
is
up,
happening,
fellas?
fellas?
What's up, my brother?
What's up, man? Glad to be here. Glad to hang with you guys a little bit.
Yeah, man. Always love
Man,
talking to you, man.
yeah, it is, man. I always get fired up, and it's always great conversation, and just super excited to jump in. And coming out of Labor Day, and all of us kind of hitting that point in reset statistically, right? This is where everybody gets dialed back in for the next couple months, September and October, and which in real estate tends to lead why most agents have a really good November before the holiday season. And
Right.
definitely no different in all aspects. So I'm excited to jump into that. But Al, coming out of this weekend, Labor Day weekend, I know you had some thoughts around it that wanted to kind of share before we really jump into Blake's story.
Well, yeah, man, and it really kind of goes to Blake. I was actually just thinking to myself, the first time I met Blake was in 2010 at EGS, and we were all much younger then, especially Blake. Especially Blake.
Yeah.
Ironic, he's got this, $1,000, $2,000 suit on. I mean, that's how I met this kid, and he was on the panel. And this is my first time, and I didn't even know you, Jay. I didn't know John. I didn't know anybody. I flew down there by myself, and I said, and then we went to the bar afterwards, and I seen Blake walking around. I was a little intimidated, man. I'll be honest. I was like, I don't know if he's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And what was really cool is that's kind of like the beginning of, at least my part of the beginning of the journey, and meeting you and watching you. That was 15 years ago, guys. 15 years ago. And
Wow.
it made me think about work because, man, the one thing I've always watched is that we're all hard workers. But watching you, Blake, I mean, I remember on stage you declared, I'm going to be driving a Maserati next year. Like you said it. And I'm like, just pumped thinking he's going to be driving a Maserati. I know you had it like 3 months after that. But, work isn't just something that we've done, man. It's something we've embodied as our culture. And of course, coming out of Labor Day, I found this cool quote by Cahill Gilbrand. I don't even know who that is, but he said that work is love made visible. Every conversation, every connection, every follow-up we make is more than just a task. It's a chance to show love through action. And there's that made me think of you, Blake, because I mean, you're growing a beautiful family. We've literally traveled all over the world. And you've grown this amazing empire in Myrtle Beach, arguably one of the toughest markets, with a high average sale price right now, a lot of big 50% fallout rate. And yet you still win. And I believe it's because you have focused on your leadership and what's going on between your ears since I've met you. And you just keep challenging yourself and getting better and better and better. So I appreciate you being on here, but what would you say if you're kind of pointing back at your leadership journey? Because we know you're going to be speaking at the Agent to CEO in Cleveland. If you don't have your tickets, the link there, you're going to see this guy live and he's going to blow your mind. But like kind of looking back at work and your focus and what you've done to build this kingdom that you've built in Myrtle Beach, like what would be the one turning point from a mindset standpoint that changed everything as a leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually just taught on this morning, our weekly team meeting, a little bit. It's about like what's separating everybody right now in the marketplace. And you're watching as the market, obviously it's difficult right now, right? Difficult across the country for everybody. But I'm noticing though, is like as buyers have gotten more hard to close, right? They're more resistant when they want, sellers think their property's worth more. The gap has been widening between buyers and sellers, but what's happening is that personal development gap for agents has just gotten wider. And so the ones who are obsessed with growing and the work and being in love with the work on themselves and growing the man or the woman are the ones that are seeing results and they're winning. Most people are just kind of staying in that status quo. But like back to that turning point you mentioned, I was talking about this today in a way, just before the podcast, I was thinking about it. And Jay used to talk about this thing with me a long time ago, because Jay was, I think, was one of the first like Kinder Reese coaching client or something. We met at Craig Proctor back in the day. But he said, hey, man, we got to live a few years of our lives unlike everyone else so we can live the rest of our life unlike everyone else. And that leadership came from developing ourselves and being obsessed with like personal development. We used to always send pictures at 5 a.m., like reading books and doing all these things. And so like now that has continued. I was talking to my team. I was like, hey, if you're struggling right now, raise your hand if you spent over 5 hours in personal development last week. And only like 2 people raised their hand, which is like really pissed me off. I'm like, dude, what the hell? The market has widened. The skill gap has widened, and it's really creating this massive gap for agents right now. And even team leaders, right? They're still operating like it was 2021, 2022, and they're getting their ass kicked. And I'll tell you, man, like it's been hard for me this year, but I was just telling my team, I was actually sharing that the gratitude. And last week I taught my team this. I said, look, I want you guys to realize that pain is a gift from God. And I told them, I said, pain right now is the only thing that's going to make you change and do the shit you know you do, you've been avoiding. And so we talked about that. And I went back and like did a gratitude stack, a journal on it. And like I've grown more this year since February than I probably have in the last 10 years at least. And just because it's been difficult, I've had to change, I've had the challenges. I have 5 different coaches in every part of life, physical. I lost 24 pounds in the last 4 months. Doubling down on body, every single macro dialed in. Cause I'm like, dude, this is fucking game. This is like wartime. Right. And so I've been leading from the front with our team, but most of that up every morning, studying, reading, up every morning, journaling, talking to God, every night doing my cardio, reading, listening, going back through old school stuff, man. I went back to like Grant Cardone University, all kind of stuff, like, so I can make sure I'm able to bridge that leadership gap right now that we're seeing as team leaders, where everyone's kind of getting stuck back and just living the status quo. And I just kind of shared to my team today too, of like, look, man, here's the deal. Everybody overcomplicates this in my way. Everybody's just overcomplicating. And the reality comes down, if I'm willing to do what others are not willing to do right now, I'm going to have what other people aren't going to have. That's simple. But we're overcomplicating it. So if I'm doing the same thing everybody else is and just reading a couple books here and there, or just getting up when I feel like it, or not studying, not investing, not having personal development, like they're not going to have anything different than everybody else is. And the masses are getting their ass whipped right now. And so that's just kind of what we're doubling down on.
Love it.
Wow, man. Dude, that blew me away on so many levels. And I connect on a lot of those because I'm on that same journey, you know, making big changes, decided getting up way earlier than I've ever gotten up, getting my readings in, opening, you know, listening to the Bible verses, filling my brain with the right stuff. What it actually made me, and it reminds me of John. We all know when we think of John, we think of coach and we think of insane, crazy runner running 100-mile races. And he didn't start doing 100-mile races. He started out, you know, maybe doing a 5K or whatever. What you kind of described was the foundation that you built. When you were talking to your agents, they're like, yeah, we're not really doing a whole lot of personal development every week. Like, this is everyone that's on this, we've been doing this for so long that we have this foundation we're building off of. We're not just, we might be making some new changes right now, but we're building them off of a foundation that we've been building. And a lot of that goes to you, John and Jay, because they coached us, right? Like they coached us when, you know, and taught us, you know, and connected us with the right people in the right rooms. So man, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. You know, it's pretty crazy too, right, Blake, as you come back around. And I'm pretty sure most of us have tapped into Ben Hardy's new book, The Science of Scaling. And that's the scaling framework, right? Impossible goal, impossible timeline. But then you got to raise the floor. And it feels like, kind of when I was listening to you, I was kind of processing through his framework, is that you've essentially raised the floor for yourself. Looking at kind of the foundation, because I think this will be really useful for people that will tune in and listen to this conversation. What is that floor? Like, what we say personal development, and, you know, you're talking, you know, the fitness, you know, you're talking, you know, the mental, the spiritual, you know, emotional, everything, business wise. And, you know, what is that for? What is the personal development that you're referring to, that you're pushing out to your team as a leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's so, like, last couple of years have been great. I'm ever since we've been, I think Al said, it's been a foundation for us. And I even showed my team this morning. Look, like, for me, it's hard. I can't wrap my head around anybody that, like, I've been doing it for so long. It's like, I can't wrap my head around getting my ass whipped for 6 straight months and not learning, not trying to, like, you know, study some stuff or figure out, like, I just call people, like, even like on our, you know, like listening team, or just getting crushed by sellers or price too high. I'm like, well, have you logged in and watched the programs? Well, no. What's the login? Like, dude, it's just, but back to that point, John, is I had this aha of like, I could just see things shifted. I could feel it shifting. The pain was kind of escalating. I'm like, all right, I got to double down. I've been kind of comfortable for a while. And, we were talking earlier, traveling the last 2 years. I traveled 1 week a month for the last 2 years, and business was still pretty good, right? And still comfortable, but I was still growing and had coaches and doing all this stuff. But like something like, I'm like, this is like an oh shit moment for me. And something switched, and I doubled down. Business coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coach with my wife, physical coach in terms of my body and that accountability. But a lot of that came through doubling down on my body. Like, John, you obviously aware of this too, of like, man, you push that mental piece. It really kind of, like, you eat the same meal every day for 4 months. You don't have any friggin' sympathy for anybody who can't show up and make some phone calls, right? Like, it's just a small, like, little details of like how you do anything is how you do everything. And so for me, it's been spiritual journey. It's been a business journey. It's been a capacity journey through pain and betrayal and all these issues that you kind of go through. And as a team leader and a business owner, and it's really had me just grow faster. I've really grown, I said, in at least a decade. And so I've been hitting all different areas, man. It's been wild, and it's been powerful in terms of the significant, the certainty I've been able to build, the confidence I've been able to build, and just kind of push through what I feel is a very, very difficult market like no one's really talking about.
Yeah, it really is. It really is a challenge. And we talk about like you had mentioned, the gap is widening. And we've talked, on, the One Big Fire last few weeks, going back to, 2013, 2014 with the, expert advisor positioning and the gap of the AFA, right? And it's just more and more and more. And we're definitely also, to me, that foundation of personal development. But as we're in the AI driven era, how are you as a leader, not letting, your agents get consumed with fear, with possibly, how is AI going to replace us, or how is AI going to make things easier for me to still not lose focus of the habits that are absolutely critical as we navigate into the AI driven era?
That's a great question, dude. That's so funny. I just taught this in that same Tuesday meeting. I did a balance of both. So one was like, we have 3 main things that really, are making a difference right now. Number one, radical personal responsibility. I talked about that, of like, no matter where you have, what's going on, where you're at, you have to have radical personal responsibility. Like, is it the market's down and the seller's crazy, or is there other people that are closing deals and getting stuff under contract? So if they are getting it done, then you should be able to get it done, right? And there's just a great piece there. The second, obviously, is the personal development piece. You have to make sure you're doing personal development to bridge the gap of what's happening, because here's why. As there's massive resistance in the marketplace, you have to have, people are craving that personal connection, even with AI and the tools and stuff we have, which I taught that separate. And you have to make sure you're able to go in and access and use sales IQ to access the pain, expand the pain. That's how you're able to reduce resistance in the current marketplace, is going super deep on what their pain is, what their real reason, because everybody's, I'm just looking, but they're really not just looking, right? I'm just want to know what my house is worth. I'm not really thinking about selling, but they have somebody over their house to potentially list it, right? You have to see through that defense mechanism they have right now and the resistance they have to really unlock that and get them to move in a very high resistance marketplace overall. And 3, just massive contribution to your clients, to your team, to kind of push through. But then the other side of that, I've been reading that AI driven leader. I know you read it recently too. That just kind of talks about like using that for strategic thinking, for guidance, for help, and going deeper. And so the second part of our meeting, we talked about that, of like, look, here's the best ways to use it. Here's how to make great decisions. Here's how we go deeper in having AI interview you to get a much better context in terms of what it's doing. And so that's how we've been alternating both of those. And I've noticed, like, most agents and people and leaders are just using service level, right? They're not going deeper. They're just talking, having brief, light conversations instead of utilizing the actual tools. But the key part is, that's not going to save you. You have to go back to the fundamentals and go deep and have high level sales IQ right now to really unpack what the true pain and true reasons are that people are wanting to move, so we can get them to take action when they know they need to.
I think Jay knows something about that rabbit hole AI.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's fascinating. But yeah, no, it's up level and skill, man. Like, what you're saying, Blake, I went through at a super high level into my own marketplace. And, when people don't, if you don't uncover the pain and really get them to share, well, what happens if you don't do this? What does that mean? What is that going to mean? Like all of those things are things that, we developed those skills over years and years of beating on our craft. But teaching people how to get better at that, it's just so much easier now with Chat GPT, because you can take this and go down a rabbit hole on how do I overcome resistance with a seller in this situation. There's so much more personal information you can bring into it now, easier, gather the information and find out about them so you can build rapport easier and make that connection. Like there's so many ways that you can integrate it and make things easier for you. It's just, for those that are seeking and trying to get better, it's easier, I think, now to get better than it was when, with us, it was repetition,
Yeah. Well, I remember that you would take, every conference or every time we would travel, dude, you would take 2 suitcases. One was like your actual suitcase, your clothes, and the other suitcase was like your books and your CDs and stuff that like your study and stuff, right? That was crazy. That was a big lesson I learned from you too, of like, look, even travel, dude, I'm taking my personal development tools and my items and things with me. Now it's just like, right here, but still.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But now you got that. Now you've got that all. Literally every mentor you could ever imagine, every book you've ever could read, you get specific to your situation in your pocket. I mean, there's no problem you can't solve and you can't figure out. So it's very empowering when you realize how much access to information instantly that you have to whatever problem it is, whether it's, even little things like, the song, you got somebody you're trying to recruit, you could create a song and send it to them. Like little, just so many little things and ideas and angles that you can use AI to do things that are going to help you, depending on, you just have to be willing to test and try it,
Yeah. And one thing I noticed too is that a lot of people just, you got to teach them how to think, right? Teach them how to prompt the right way and how to reverse engineer. Those people they're just not great at writing. And so you have to kind of, here's the way you think through it. Here's how you sound the certain, context roles, all the stuff to do. But then, like you said, how do I reverse engineer the problem to make it actually go deep enough where I can get leverage on the seller or the buyer or the client or whatever it is, and get what you want? And that was something I think it's been an eye-opening thing for me, is teaching that to people so they can think the way they need to think to get the result they need to result in the back end.
Yeah. I always try to, I mean, my prompts are sometimes I'm just like, okay, here's what I'm trying to do. And here's the situation. Here's this, like, I give it everything. Like if I was sitting down with Jay Abraham and I had to explain to him what it is I'm trying to do, that's how I try to explain it to Chat GPT. And so that, giving it all that content, I have broke it a few times. I don't know if you've run into this, but you can break this some bits. That's for sure.
I just did. Yesterday it just said I'm out of memory, or I'm like, what do you mean I'm out of memory? So I got to upgrade my thing. But what you guys were just talking about, what popped into my head was when it clicked for me, and this is more on like a spiritual lesson. And I've told John and Jay the book that I'm real deep. In fact, I just finished it, and now I'm on the next kind of version of it. It's the lecture series on the untethered soul. Best book I've ever read in my life, hands down. And I'm about to reread it, but they have the lecture series on it. One of the many lessons in it is letting go and just stop resisting. And I'll tell you this, that is the opposite of what I did for the first 20 plus years of my career, man. It was all about force not power. And the power versus force is a whole nother great book and everything, but when you understand the distinction between the two, and it's tough too, but like letting it what's going to happen is what's going to happen. The part that I will make a bold statement and say, for some of the success that I've seen, I've had a 0 in the spirituality category. Every time I took the test, the five circles of life or whatever, like that was just always a big goose egg for me. And I'm a recovering Catholic and everything like that, was altar boy, all that. I didn't get that spiritual part. That book helped me. And now what's amazing is the dots that it connects for business, for relationships, for being able to communicate at a higher level and solve conflict. And I just didn't get it for so long. I'm glad you had said, you got the spiritual coach. John introduced me to Dr. Matt, who's been life-changing for me. I think going back to the AI conversation, for me, the biggest thing was being able to get vulnerable with the AI. When you're able to just let it go and let it flow, into there is where you're going to see the biggest results as far as you know, like, dang, you start to grow as a person when you're able to do it like that. And that's what I've been really, you know, seeing as far as from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, the thinking component to it, right, is so important to be able to understand. But where I think thinking better and accurately comes in is grown through pain. And it's the tough challenges and the things that we sometimes knucklehead ourselves into, right, to navigate and work through, but also some of the tough things that we just force ourselves to do, right? That's like, for me, where running is right now is just pushing the boundaries of like exploring, you know, the level of pain, just because I've seen the correlation that everything else is not painful stuff, that people lose sleep and, you know, tend to do harm, like, doesn't even really phase when you're able to understand and work through. But also, I think too, thinking and questions to ask and who to pay attention to and consume and the coach is when you know what the problem is. And I love what you said about radically transparent. That's Al's 100-0. That's, you know, own the outcome, whatever frame that you want to use. And when you can just take responsibility and understand that, hey, I caused this, right? In some aspect, it might not be 100% my fault, but I caused this. It's 100% on me. And then that, to me, allows where to start working and what to start consuming and what questions to start asking. Because too many times, right? I mean, what did Jay always tell us? You know, is it, you know, intellectual entertainment, or is it really helping you, you know, solve and navigate the problems that you're trying to solve?
Yeah,
100%.
check this out. So let me share. This is me being vulnerable. I'm afraid I shouldn't even do this, but so this is, let me find the right one. Mindset coaching tips. So I'm going to share. So this is me talking to ChatGPT about rigs. I'm having hell getting my kids to understand mindset. As you know, we came to agreement on core values and watch motivation movies. So I'm going through like this whole thing with it, right? And then, so this is what it said. Got it. Here's the straight truth. You're trying to teach an 11-year-old the mindset of a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, I was laying in bed and I was like, man, like I've got to figure it out because I lost it. I mean, he triggered me with complaining about something after football practice because he dropped a couple passes, and I'm like, bro, you got to suck before you get better. That's the process. Like we know this. We watch motivational videos every night. We have and so it helped me though. Like we were watching them in the morning, watching them at night. Then we went to watching them, writing down your takeaways. How are you going to apply it? What are the commitments you're going to make? Like, and get, and then watching them. Like I went from watching Riggs not work on his handles left-handed when he knows he needs to all day long, because he picked a time the next day he was going to do it by. He came home from school and he's like, man, I thought about it all day today at school. He's like, I decided I'm just going to do it. like I didn't have to tell him. Right. And so like, but for me as a leader trying to lead these monkeys, I'm like, man, I can't go to sleep tonight knowing that I could go get the answer of how I could be better. I can't just go to sleep and not try to go get better. Right. Like that's not in me. And so now I get up and I'm like, typing it all up. It gives me this whole plan on how to approach it. The next day, implement the plan. Right. Like it's crazy how no matter what problem you have, if you leverage AI to help you, it don't matter if it's with your wife, with personal, spiritual, money, whatever it is. Yep. I use it for everything. And it's changed my life. Like, it's not like I got to go buy this one book and read this one book to get that one idea. Like I can get it all in a breakdown and a checklist and a spreadsheet and like, the whole thing done for you. Hey, would you like for me to put that in a spreadsheet so you can track it every day? I'm like, well, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I didn't think of that. But it's been fascinating how much better you can get, at anything instantly. Like I feel like we have all our mentors in our pocket now.
Yeah, dude. What you just described is the gap. That's the new gap.
Right.
Right. And I think the key part though is like we've spent years and years and years stripping away layers and layers and layers of just the bullshit, right? And like I find that the more radical responsibility you have, the more truthful you are and the less lies you tell yourself, the more clarity you can have in the pain or the actual problem, right? Where a lot of people tend to avoid the problem and just create a story to justify their situation. You have to be real and raw with yourself, right? We call it in our office SFL, like stop fucking lying, right? To make sure you have the truth. There's the reality, right? And there's a fact and there's a truth. People tend to twist the reality to match the truth they want. You have to be able to get to the facts so that you can give the right information, the right data to get the right output. And it's the same with ourselves in our own mind, or our human intelligence or the artificial intelligence, the same thing, the same principles. And I think that's something that we spent decades, of perfecting, or just being real to ourselves and get real to the problem. And that allows you to get so much faster response and growth. But like, you got to know the pain, like John said. And one of the best quotes I got was from Garrett White. He said, when I know your pain better than you do, I own your mind for life. And I was like, man, that really hit me. And I think about that a lot, because most people have pain, but they can't put the words to the pain to help them figure out to get out their own way. Right. And so the more we can help them get clarity on that, the more you can help them move. And I think that's where like the true gift comes right now in sales, in leadership, in yourself, of like, how do I put to words? And like you said, you use AI now to help go through the question interview of like helping me put what I'm feeling into words, and boom, now I can get the outcome I want, or the plan I want, at least.
Right. You're right. So getting people to understand their pain like that, they mask it, and it's hard to get to that point where people are, how do you help people see that it's not truth, like without them resisting and getting defensive and wanting to make, they want to own all those excuses? How do you break through that barrier?
So with our team wise, right? Like, number one, it starts to get vulnerable, me being vulnerable, and like, being vulnerable with myself and things I've gone through and things I'm going through, and just sharing my shit sometimes. Right. But number two, and we call this like phase one is, we call it live by the code. Right. And this is some stuff from like the warrior things that we do, but it's like, I got to live by the code, meaning I tell the truth, no matter how painful it is. Right. I look at the facts, not how I feel. And most people live in feelings instead of facts, right? But facts are the only thing that allows you to dig yourself out and have that radical personal responsibility where I own everything. And back to 100-0. But even if it's like, I was telling an example like today, like, hey, so-and-so's on, on their third or fourth divorce. They could have 4 crazy wives, or they could be the problem, right? In terms of how do I, and even though let's say that the 4 wives were crazy, it's still their fault for picking 4 crazy women, right? So like, you have to have that ability to pull that in and say, okay, what am I doing? And how do I have that radical responsibility? But when, as leader, starts myself, we just got to preach it over. And it takes time, man. Like, people have been conditioned their whole life to create stories and to justify for protection, right, of their ego and themselves, and to try to have some status in their culture. And so we have to strip that away, because that's the ultimate power, I think, in today's world, is anybody can stand in that truth and have no skeletons in the closet, and they can have all that internal power because they can deal with themselves. And now, when I don't give that power to somebody else, I can change the outcome. But if I blame my childhood or my parents or my spouse or friends, I can never change the outcome. I just gave all the power to them, and that's where they feel helpless.
Right. Oh, that's good, man. That's good. One of the things that I picked up on with my kids in doing this has been, if they don't do the work, getting them to think about what were the thoughts that they had, and understanding that the only reason it didn't happen was because you talked yourself out of doing something you knew you should do too. Right. So like paying attention to the internal and your internal voice, and realizing it's not because you didn't want to do it, or you didn't want to do it. You said you committed, you said you were going to do it. What did you say to yourself? How is your mind controlling you to not do the things you're supposed to do? Pay attention. That's as much as the lesson as you actually did the work, right? Is that when you didn't do it, you learned something about how you talked yourself out of it, and that is something you have control over. And so, man, it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating. But kids are a different level. Apparently, I'm a little too intense, according to ChatGPT. But we all trying to learn.
I mean, back to what you said, our minds are the problem, because our minds are our ego, and we all manipulate. We manipulate ourselves into thinking, or making an excuse, even if it's just internally, not externally or whatever. And that's what I learned is, like, one of the things that Dr. Matt had said is that when you find yourself in this, it's having that awareness to stop and step into the spirit and let it flow. Then now you're observing it from a spiritual standpoint, and you're looking at it, you're like, dude, I'm making a fucking excuse right now. Stop. I wrote it down, dude. Stop fucking lying. When the SFL, when you guys are, when you say that, you're referring to yourselves, not lying to other people, right? Like you're bullshit.
Right?
You're manipulating yourself, right?
You lie to yourself more than anybody, right? And that, like, back to what Jay was saying too. And if the way to really unpack it is, you always got to look at the story. What's the story I'm telling myself? Because the story is always a justification, right? The story, that the reason, that the because, or the this or that, the story around it is what ultimately is the way that you can lead yourself out. But you got to be able to identify the story and say, okay, is this fact or feeling? And then ultimately, how do I go back and reframe that story to something that's more powerful? It's like Jay said, like, with Riggs, like, what's the story he's telling himself to let himself off the hook? That's where the key piece of leverage is, right? And if you can teach them how to uncover that faster and correct that faster, and how do I create a more powerful story that can lead me out of that hesitation or whatever it is, that's how you find the action mode. But yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of personal work. Like you said, it takes a lot of internal out. But it's like you said, Al, the first thing, I tell my team all the time, number one, you got to realize it, right? You got to pause and just like, okay, I call myself out in my own stuff. And two, give those around you permission to call you out. Like Haley, she calls me out all the time. She's like, that's a great story. I'm like, shit, that is a good story. I like that story. it's like, it's like, but then you catch it.
You're like, listen, man, I wrote that story. That's a good one.
Well, the thing, dude, what I want to point out, Blake, too, like, the all of this that you're doing for your team, and it's a culture you've created. Like, you created a culture where it's okay to hold each other accountable, which I think accountability is the highest form of love, right? Like, y'all live by these values, and I know you live by them by day, by night, and you're no different. No matter where you're at, you live by these values, and you created a culture where it's not okay to not be like that. And that's why you've been so successful. It's why you won. It's one of the most profitable teams that exists in real estate today is your team in Myrtle Beach. And it would not be that if it wasn't for the culture that you've built around these principles. That's what allows it to happen. There's no other way to get there. And so, like, you've done what from the outside looking in, having us looked under the hoods of thousands of these vehicles. This is the machine, and you have laid the foundation as perfectly as one could be laid to do what you do. So, man, I'm proud of you, brother.
I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you,
Blake. Building on that, I want to, if you don't mind, just unpack that just a little bit, because what Jay's, culture is not what you say or the words on the wall. It's how you truly behave, right? You are what you are, and so. For you, obviously the radical transparency, the personal development, but what are some of the other values that you guys, live by? Because this is so important for people to get, right? Core values drive everything. And those are our decision-making filters, the should nots, and, hire, fire, train, coach, lead, mentor to them. What are some of your other values that you guys, live by?
That's a great question, man. And I tell you, like, back to that, and it's hard, you guys know, like, if you kind of, the hardest part about being a leader is just holding the standard, right? And I think that and this is my big lesson I've learned the last year, is I'll get to that in a second to answer that, is that if you're not recruiting consistently to the team like you need to enough, you'll tend to be hostage, right, to these people on your team or whatever it is, and you'll tend to want to bend the rules, right? Because then all of a sudden you're worried about profitability and things go on. So this year has been one of my biggest lessons. Like, look, man, like, I'm living me and all of me, 100% of me, and who I am. I'm leading for the front, regardless of what the costs are maybe. And obviously, it takes a lot of self-reflection. I'm always trying to call myself out on it and lead from the front, lead by example. But same thing we always talk about, right? 100% accountable, zero excuses, right? Excellence in every aspect. We live by that for our clients and things like that. Obviously, the one we talk about all the time is do the work in terms of who we are, what we do, how we do it. Obviously, personal development is huge, because I feel like that comes through. When people actually do personal development, they actually feel fulfillment, they feel progress, they feel like they're growing, and we're constantly hammering on those. And I was just sharing this morning, because we have all this stuff on the wall, right? I'm like, look, if you take the three that are most important right now, what's going on is, number one, obviously radical responsibility. Number two, personal development. Number three, contribution to the team, people around you, things like that. And I think you're seeing everybody who's doing this at a high level right now. Like, that's all that really kind of matters. And I'm trying to, like, simplify it right now in this. This chaos with our team of, like, look, I told them at the meeting, like, we got all this shit on the wall. The three that mean the most are these three right here. And that's what I talked to them today. I said, we overcomplicate everything right now. And I said, back to that part I was talking about, I was like, if I show up the same time everybody else does, guess what I'm getting? The same as everybody else. If I leave the same time everybody else does, I'm getting the same as everybody else. If I read the same amount of books everybody else does, I'm getting the same as everybody else. I'm like, y'all, we overcomplicate this shit so much. All you got to do is just double down and do more than everyone else. I got to be here earlier than anybody else, stay here later than anybody else, read more books, study more stuff, role play more, and just do the basics that we know we should be doing, but we want to avoid that and try to overcomplicate it so we can avoid that accountability and know what we need to do. And so that's what I've been hammering on lately. And I've been leading for the front. I show my people this picture. I'm like, look, and I was intense today in our team meeting. I was like, look, I don't ask y'all to do any of this shit I don't do. And I said, the reason I can stand up here with intensity, I share the picture. I was like, this is me last night at 9:59 p.m. walking, doing my cardio and listening to audio and training, getting better while everybody else is fucking sleeping or partying, whatever else is on Labor Day. And I asked my team to stay. I was like, hey, we have like 6 or 7 of you guys here, which is I was like, who here can raise your hand and tell me what Labor Day is about and the history behind it? Not one person. I'm like, cool. Does anybody know? No. One person like had a guess. I'm like, no, actually it was started by labor unions, right, in New York City to celebrate the Industrial Revolution and the workers in there. I was like, how many of you guys are super passionate about the Industrial Revolution? They're like, none. I'm like, well, then why the fuck are y'all taking the whole day off, not doing anything, getting hammered, not getting better, not progressing? Because you're just following the masses and doing the status quo. And I said, to have power and difference in today's marketplace, you got to be different. And that was my message this morning. And I was like, I was pretty fired about it, as you could probably tell. And they were laughing about it afterwards. Our inside sales guy's like, bro, I can't believe you just went there with the Industrial Revolution and who's passionate about it. Like, it's true, right? Because like people are just like, they're just going along doing just enough, just status quo, barely enough to show up. And they can't figure out why life's not working, why they're overweight, why they're not, able to be present with their kids, while they're struggling. It's like, man, I was telling them, like, some of y'all have been struggling with the same objections for 6 months, but you won't get up early and watch some videos that tell you how to overcome it. But so like, that's the key part about that. I think right now, the big, in multiple teams I'm seeing, multiple agents I'm seeing across the country, it's that same, they got to level up and have those 3 main core values right now.
Yep. I love it.
Good.
Money. Great stuff.
Can't wait to see you in Cleveland, man. You're gonna light this city up.
I told John, man, I want to be just real and raw. And like, we've had some pain and struggle, and we've done pretty well. Like I said, I can't remember the last time we sold less than 500-ish homes. And I can't, it's been a long time. And to maintain that for so long has been very, it's difficult to do. But the reality is, like, there's a lot of pain that comes with that, and a lot of stuff that, looking back, it's like massive amounts of gifts. And I can't wait to share some of that about like why the problems that you're having are, and how to really break that down and how to embrace them. Right. One of the biggest problems that people have right now is thinking that they shouldn't have the problem, and thinking that they shouldn't have the pain with the problem. And so if they can embrace that and look at, like, look, this happened either, for me, because of me, for me to be able to change, do what I need, that's where the enlightenment comes in. So I'm excited, dude. I can't wait to share about some of the stuff we've been through and the stuff I've gone through and help everybody. I think I was telling John, a lot of people having this pain, they just aren't talking about it, right? And I think now it's kind of talk about it so people can get power from it, and they can grow from it, and they can shorten that learning curve instead of just ignoring what's right in front of their face and feeling that pain.
Yeah. So
Dude,
good.
I love it, man. And if everyone's listening to this, like, I hope that you're getting some takeaways that, don't wait for the pain to be so intense to where you're in this dark, deep hole and depressed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is about stop fucking lying. Like, own it where you're at this moment. And if you know that you need to grow, I mean, if you're trying to grow your business, you have to grow personally and professionally. You got to grow between the ears before you're going to grow in the bank account. And this is a perfect, I got to end on this quote because it's right up this alley. And for a lot of people in our business, they get into this business to make a lot of money. I want a better life for my family. I want to make a lot of money. I mean, nobody gets into real estate. It's like, I think I want to make $50,000 a year. That's okay with me. Like, they want to go big. And this is this line. I don't know who the quote was from, but the highest reward for a man's toil is not what he gets for it, but what he becomes by it, which is exactly what we've been talking about.
Yep.
What if that was the reward? It's about shifting our perception of what the outcome should be versus transformation. And you're experiencing, you said, more transformation since February than maybe even the last decade. I feel like that in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And
so, it's a gift, right? And I'll tell you,
it really is, man. If you heard anything on this podcast, I hope you wrote some writer downers, and that's a writer downer. So I appreciate you guys. We're gonna see you in 3 weeks. 3 weeks from today in Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm excited to run it back with you guys again, man. We had lots and lots of memories, lots and lots of growth, lots and lots of pain stories. And so I'm super excited to hang with you guys and share and learn and just kind of be a part of the great energy.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Agent
guys.
to CEO, CLE, or you go to honeybadgernation.com, get your tickets, and we'll see you guys in Cleveland. Brother, appreciate you. Cuz.
Love you guys.
We'll see you guys.
Right.
Love you.
See you guys.